Well, that was pretty fun, wasn't it? After losing the first two games of the first round of the Stanley Cup Playoffs in Winnipeg, the Blues roar to a 7-2 victory over the Jets at home in Game 3. So what changed between the first two games and this last game, the third game? What were the reasons for the Blues' success in this game, and can they keep the ball rolling to win Game 4 and even the series at 2 wins each? We'll talk about all that and more today on Note News. Like I said, that was one heck of a game. Probably the most fun I've had watching hockey in a long time. Um, just a really fun game for the St. Louis Blues for obvious reasons, but got a huge victory after a couple demoralizing and kind of deflating losses where they put up a good fight but couldn't come out with the W, and so they finally got it done in Game 3. The boys were buzzing. It was a really fun one, so we're gonna talk about that game today. Before we do, if you are new to Note News, we're a St. Louis Blues podcast, and we go live typically twice a week, but we've been doing it a little more often to cover playoff hockey, but we talk all things Blues. So if you want to join us each time we go live or check out all of our episodes, then be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like this video as well. That helps us out a lot. And then follow us on you can follow wherever you listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You can rate and review there as well. And then follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at No News Pod on socials, where we post a lot of great stuff. So check us out on all those platforms and follow along with us as we will continue to cover Blues playoff hockey. But Alec, Blues playoff hockey returned to St. Louis last night for the first time in 3 years, and I think Enterprise Center was ready. The city of St. Louis was ready, and
Oh yeah.
they showed up big in that game. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, how you feeling after Game 3?
Well, kind of had a little bit of a down day, and are you kidding? That was awesome. Like the most cathartic sports watching experience I've had in the hockey world in years. Just amazing from the first minute to the last. I think the moment that did it for me was the third period started, and obviously we all knew the narrative going into this series, going into this game is, the first two periods we can play with them, but can we not lose in the third period? And they score early in the third on just a defensive miscue by Snuggerud, and it's like, okay, it's now a 2-goal game. Should still be in our favor here, but hey, I've seen a lot of bad things happen so far. And then they get that fourth goal, the equalizer, which was the Buchnevich hat trick sealing goal. And that was just, unless I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Fourth
It
goal?
was.
Yeah.
Yep. And then just from then on, I think it was true elation.
Just piled it on.
Yeah, the rest of the game too, like having in the first period like 15 hit or 30 hits, 15 shots. I mean, that is dominance you don't see in regular season games, let alone in the playoffs, let alone against the best team in the National Hockey League. So, let's get into it. It was a fun one, and let's go Blues.
It sure was. That was so fun. And how about that for a response, right? Like you said, after getting kind of knocked down at the end of both of those two games and just unable to put something together, they come out big in Game 3. They were not ready to go home. They were eager to make it a series. And so did the Blues watch Note News? Like, do we think the Blues are fans of Note News? Because Alec, in our last episode after Game 2, we talked about what we were looking for in Game 3, right? And you pointed out strong start, strong finish, and bring back the physicality. I think were like your three main points, and they did just that, right? Couldn't start much stronger than they did with two goals both by Pavel Buchnevich within the first 4 minutes. Unreal start. Cam Fowler tacked one on towards the end of that one as well. Brought the physicality again, set a new franchise record for hits in a playoff game, right? In that one, at least I'm pretty sure I saw that towards the end of the broadcast. And then Yeah, finished strong as well with 4 goals in the third period. So we've been asking for them to show out in the third period, which has been a strength for them for the past few weeks. Right, they've been one of the more um, one of the stronger NHL teams when it comes to locking it down in the third, or surging back in the third, or something like that. And so it was a little bit baffling, but it was great to see them come out strong. Gave up a couple, but piled on 4 more in the third as well. So um, absolutely amazing game. The full breakdown of scoring, obviously Booch with a goal early, a power play goal, and then Fowler with a goal in the first. It was scoreless in the second, and then in the third period, David Gustafsson scored the first for the Jets. Buchnevich got his hat trick on an assist from both Robert Thomas and Connor Hellebuck. So shout out Hellebuck on that one for the assist. And then Kyrou got a power play goal. Torpchenko had a really good goal, assisted by Neighbors and Faxa, so that was really cool. And then power play goal from Neil Pionk, and then power play goal from Colton Parayko to close it out. So 7-2. Blues put up another touchdown. That was really really cathartic, like you said. And then as we've been doing with each of these games, just sort of breaking down goalie performance as well. It was all Benner in this one. I wouldn't say he had himself like a fantastic game. I think he had a better game in game two, but he didn't need to because the boys were buzzing. So an 889 save percentage. He faced only 18 shots on goal in that one, so that was huge. .25 goals saved above expected as well. On the other side, it wasn't so pretty. Connor Hellebuck got chased from the game, allowing 6 goals in this one, a 760 save percentage, and a minus 3.27 goals saved above expected on 25 shots on goal. So rough outing for Hellebuck, who another narrative going into this series for the Jets and just going into the playoffs in general is just he's got some playoff demons, right? And so has been unable to carry the Jets in a playoff series. I believe the stat was that they popped it last night once they scored enough. 9 of his last 12 playoff games, he has allowed 4 or more. So I mean, this is one of the big storylines for the Jets coming into the playoffs, and so the Blues were able to get to him early, and then pile it on at the end. Eric Comrie came in relief of Hellebuck towards the end. He only faced 3 shots on goal, but one went through. Parayko's goal got through. So that's sort of the goalie performance, and I think it was good that they both chased Hellebuck and then scored on Comrie, right? So they, if in the event that Comrie needs to take over, they have already scored on him once and might be in his head. So I think that was sort of a good thing to have happen towards the end there. Any takes in general on the goalie performance in this one?
Yeah, I think we can start the discussion on Hellebuck. I think there's a lot of angles you could take here. One, definitely, like, you have to. There is absolutely there can be no doubt, I think, to anyone at this point. The Blues chased Hellebuck from this game. Connor Hellebuck let in so many goals that the Jets could not keep him in net. The best goaltender in the world, and the Blues scored a touchdown on him. Yeah. So, like, that cannot be understated. I wouldn't say Hellebuck had just like an atrocious game. Like, I don't think a lot of the goals that went through were just like have to have it saves from Hellebuck at all. I truly think this was just the Blues beating Hellebuck and being better, and the puck bounced their way tonight. It's crazy. In our last 2 episodes, we're just frustrated and down on the games. We ask for the smallest modicum of puck luck, and we put up a +5 goal differential in a game. So I am absolutely impressed, but maybe not surprised by this offensive performance, even against the best defensive team in the league, against the best goalie in the world. I don't think the saves that I don't think the goals that he let through, like I said, they weren't like awful shots that just missed. You have to credit the boys for doing everything right. Buchnevich has been like buzzing for a while now. It felt like
Mhm.
he was due a performance like this, and it's
Oh
awesome
yeah.
that it came in the playoffs. But ever since he came back in, I want to say it was Snuggerud's debut, but around that time, and maybe not came back, just maybe I remember that's the turning point in my head. But
Hmm.
I think he's looked really, really phenomenal. And I am absolutely super impressed with Buchnevic's play for a while now. He led the team. I mean, obviously, he led the team in expected goals last night um, because he scored 3 of them. But
Hmm.
I think, yeah, it really like there's a lot of credit to go around here, and a lot of it is just to the offensive performance that this team is capable of when they keep their foot on the gas. I think that's the other biggest takeaway we talked about from the last 2 episodes was a lot of
Yeah.
those third period meltdowns happen because they let their opponents back in the game. Now, admittedly, at that point it was like 3-0, 3-1, so pretty far out for a playoff game, but certainly not unheard of. And yeah, they showed offensively what they're capable of, and 7 goals came as a result of that. So starting with the goaltending, like you said, just what a performance by Binner, classic like vintage playoff Binner performance. Um, the only one is maybe he could have read that Pionk shot a little bit better, but sometimes you get beat. And yeah, I think the fact that they were able to chase Hellebuck just cannot really be understated here.
Yeah, for sure. My next question was sort of, do you have any other main takeaways from Game Three? But I think it's a good time for my first one here. It's just like, generally speaking, I think this performance and this outcome was kind of the best case scenario for the Blues in Game Three. Like, you might say, well, it would have been better if Benner had shut them out, and I can see an argument for that, for sure. But I think the fact that they were able to withstand the second period push from the Jets and then swiftly respond to Winnipeg's 3-1 goal with like 3 more. Um, I think that was really key, right? Like, giving up a couple goals isn't ideal, but the fact that they were able to respond and not let that get them down, I think was really big. And so, I mean, just like all around best case scenario, like we've been talking about already, coming out strong, finishing strong, not letting the foot off the gas, rattling Hellebuck, chasing him from the game. I think if in this game they were able to get in Hellebuck's head a little bit, rattle him a little bit, like this could pay dividends for the rest of the series. Like, this could have been a huge inflection point for the Blues in this series. We won't know until they play again on Sunday for sure. But like, as we've brought up several times in the past few episodes, Hellebuck has a bit of a track record for falling apart a little bit in the postseason, and it's not all on him, right? You play as a team, and a lot of those performances, the Jets' defensive structure failed as well. I think about the series last year against Colorado, right? They got rattled and then strayed away from their identity. That was sort of the big story. It was like they got kind of panicky and didn't really know how to respond to Colorado. So it's not always just been Hellebuck, but he has had his fair share of struggles and playoff demons, as I've mentioned a couple times. And so, if they're able to get in his head a little bit, chase him from the game here, like, that's goalies are really finicky and it's a really mental position to play. And so it could be really important for the Blues in the first round here, if it continues, I think. And so, just all around a great game. Like, they didn't ever back down, either scoring wise or physicality wise. Like, just kind of a best case scenario for the Blues. I mean, what do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely a best case scenario. But even then, like I said, I'm not really shocked by this outcome as much as just it was
Sure.
just so much fun to watch. This was always, I think, in the cards for how this offense is playing. And really, I think the Blues identity ever since Montgomery has taken over and reshaped this team into his image has been a very balanced approach of offense, defense, and goaltending. But really, it's all driven by an equal amount of effort, and that's where all of this comes from.
Hmm.
Because I mean, the offensive performances that we saw down the stretch and in this most recent game, and I'd argue even in the first 2 games against the Jets, they just didn't quite get the bounces. But I mean, they had some really good creative looks there. It just comes from relentlessness, and all of that stems from effort as a team identity, playing together, and playing hard like for each
Hmm.
other. I really think that this relentless Blues hockey comes from that culture and that like I guess my takeaway here is just seeing this winning culture and seeing this effort culture being not only possible but dominate in a playoff game against the best defensive team in the league. You have to just be absolutely stoked for the future of Blues hockey. After, of course, they win the Stanley Cup this year, but for the future Stanley Cups that will win every year after that, um, I am absolutely super being tongue in cheek, of course. I am absolutely super stoked for like how this core is going to be able to grow together because like on any given night it could come from a guy like Pavel Buchnevich, but he's 30, so sort of a middling age on the roster, but expected more expectations, and he can live up to it. Or it can come from a guy like Cam Fowler, who's in the
Hmm.
twilight of his NHL career and can just put up like 5 points because he feels like it.
Unreal.
Or like maybe on a given night, it'll be Alexei Toropchenko's time to shine. Either way, I think just seeing all of these different sort of puzzle pieces lock in and fit together into this like perfectly beautiful mosaic of Blues hockey was just so much fun. It was just so much fun.
Super fun. And that's the thing, right, with this series. Even when they were down 2 games to none, it was still hard not to feel optimistic about this team in certain ways, right? Because I think context is really important here. They weren't really expected to make the playoffs. Like there were some in the Blues fandom that believed that they could, but it wasn't the expectation, right? Like it was kind of a hopeful, like a hopeful prognostication or whatever you want to call it, if that's even a word. It was more of a hopeful scenario, right, and sort of a best case scenario for the Blues, but by no means was it the expectation. And so to see them make the playoffs this year, but beyond that, to see them go toe to toe with the President's Trophy winners in all three of these games, and even though they lost the first two, they definitely they competed in those games, and they were the worst team in a lot of ways in those matchups. But the fact that it was close and it was a 1 goal game in both of those games, empty netter aside from game one, like it's super encouraging. You got to feel really good about the Blues' future. Jimmy Snuggerud looks like he's living up to the moment. Zach Bolduc and Jake
Yes.
Neighbors like coming alive in these games, getting that experience. It's a really exciting time to be a fan of Blues hockey. But um, we're here to talk more game three than long term. This will maybe be an off season discussion we can pick back up, but we can definitely sprinkle some of these points throughout. But yeah, just like really excited for the future of Blues hockey for sure. Um,
Mm-hmm. And this
yeah,
series, I
yeah,
think the biggest thing like is just seeing not only all the different ways in which Blues hockey can win, but all the different ways in which Blues hockey can beat the Jets, and how we all knew. Well, at least most of us. Yeah, we read all your comments. Knew that this was like always a possibility to have a type of performance like this. It wasn't just talk that the Blues were just a hot team who was going to fizzle
hmm,
out. They're still down in the series. They still got a ways to fight, but
sure.
this offense clearly showed its mettle, showed its ability to hang in a series like this, and they did so in the form of chasing Cam Fowler. So I really
Hmm.
think it is more the older guys on the roster stepping up. Thomas and Kyrou are having pretty good seasons, although Robert Thomas did have a little bit of a quiet game in the expected goals
Yeah.
measure.
Hmm.
Sorry, but still registered a multi-point game because he's Robert
Three
Thomas.
assists. Yeah.
Yeah, just because. But I really do think
Four
it's
assists. Did
going
he
to
get
be
four
more of.
assists?
Um, did he assist all of? Uh, I think it's just three.
He got four because he assisted on Colton Parayko's. It was
Oh,
Parayko's goal. Buchnevich is third. Buchnevich is, uh, sorry, I'm going out of order. Second, and Cam Fowler. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, there you go.
Just a casual,
4.9.
quiet 4-point night for Robert
Yep,
Thomas.
and we don't talk about it. And
Yeah.
here I am saying his expected goals metric was actually it was fifth on the
Actually, under the
team.
hood. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not trying to say that Robert Thomas is going to have a bad series at all, but again, when you don't even need Robert Thomas to be a dominant playmaker on the ice, he still puts up 4 assists. But my point being that the veteran talent of this team is actually enough to at least hang with the Jets, and then the infusion of youth is really, I think, pushing the limits of what this team can be. But in a slugfest series that this series has become, you're going to rely more on the experience and the leadership of players who have been there. And that's where I think a guy like Oscar Sundqvist has actually been super useful in this series. I cannot believe I'm saying it, but he's been playing
He
really,
hasn't been
really
bad at all.
great. No, he's been like battling down low and blocking shots still. On top of that, he was actually second in expected goals last night, with 0.46 behind Buchnevich. So I think
Yeah.
it's the guys with the playoff experience who you're seeing step up. Cam Fowler, obviously Booch, Sonny, Kairu. Parayko's been all right. I think Parayko's a little bit more of a discussion, but I think absolutely, like,
He
the
had a good
fact that
night.
the fact that they're able to hang with this Jets core is awesome. And then you throw in a Broberg and a Snuggerud, who I think Snuggerud is like playing like the best player on the Blues and maybe on
It's
the
crazy.
ice. Hasn't had the production to back that up, but I'm just so impressed by everything Snuggerud's been doing, considering his age. Just the way that it's like he forgets that it's supposed to be hard to play hockey in the NHL in the
Yeah.
playoffs.
Well, he just doesn't know it yet because he just got here.
Right, right. So
Yeah. It's
this could be a
crazy. And
serious breakout for him, but yeah.
oh yeah, 100%. This is like where legends are made, right? Is in the playoffs, and he just looks ready for it. Like the fact that he's 20 years old and he was playing college hockey like a month ago. Like you said, it's like he doesn't even know it's supposed to be hard, and it's kind of crazy. This is, I mean, the point you just made there, just sort of the ways in which the success is coming. It's coming from all over the place. Like that's another one of my main takeaways from this game is that, and from I guess the progression of games 1 to 3 is that I don't think this team was built for like a single matchup uh, type of competition. Like that, they were built for a series. I feel like, and that's one of the main things I've learned. You look at their win streak, right? 12 in a row. One of the central factors of that, beyond like vibes and energy and the power of friendship, were routine and consistency, right? That was like a huge factor in that win streak, is just deploying the same forward lines, guys just getting so ingrained in the chemistry that they have with their line mates and stuff. Like it was so valuable and it led to so much success. And so that sort of routine, like that routine strength and sort of consistency strength, like I think translates a whole lot better to a series than it does to just a couple of games. Now you look at injuries, Dylan Holloway, Colton Parayko in there, and then Robert Thomas. I don't think is at 100%. Like he looks good, but I don't think he's at 100%.
I do think Parayko and Thomas do look a little bit hampered playing right
Yeah,
now.
yeah, and so those injuries have kind of thrown a wrench into the works when it comes to consistency and routine. But what we've seen in this series, games 1 through 3, is that they have steadily improved with each game, right? Game 1, they came out strong, and we were really excited about that and thought, oh my gosh, can they steal game 1 against the President's Trophy winners? It looked like they could. They didn't have the juice, right? They kind of fell apart in the end. Well, they learned something, and then the next goal was even more competitive. They didn't win. They never, they didn't lead for a lot. Like, did they lead at all in that one? I can't remember. I think the
In
Jets
which
scored first in
game?
that one. So the game 2, Jets scored first in that one. So like, they didn't lead at all in that one, but it was a 1 goal game, right? It was close. It was competitive. it was solid hockey being played between two teams that were on relatively equal footing in that one. And then you look at last night, and they just roared to this 7-2 victory. Each game, they have gotten a little bit better and better and better. And so I think just that routine and the momentum, it's just like they're like a train or like an engine, just sort of chugging along, gathering up speed whenever they get to play. Uh, Whenever they get to play more consistently, and so that's sort of my main takeaway is that they were built for a series like this, and so I think they can just get better and better. Yeah.
Well, and I think on that point, I think you like you mentioned game one, it looked like they could potentially steal game one, ended up not happening. I'd say a big part of that was, like we said, letting our foot off the gas, but also I think a lot of the just miscues, poor discipline, and everything that comes with a young and inexperienced team. Like that was their first playoff hockey minutes for a lot of the guys on the roster. And for even more on the roster, that was their first playoff hockey in years, especially for a guy like Cam Fowler since like 2015, 14, 15.
Hmm.
And then also, obviously every St. Louis Blues player has been 3 years, but I think there was just kind of an adjustment period, and the Jets, who have been in the playoffs for several years running now, just had the mentality, knew what it took in that moment. But like you said, that was kind of their wake up call, their slap in the face. Remember that this is what it's going to take to
Hmm.
push in a fight. And we saw them come out and push and fight in game two. But, an unfortunate bounce early in the game gives the Jets an early goal. And that's kind of the story. Connor Hellebuck does his thing. I think the other thing you brought up there, which is really relevant here. Excuse me, my mind's kind of racing. Um, I am just so impressed by the way that this team came out and played with their hair on fire at home. Enterprise Center last night was. I'm surprised that the structural foundation is still intact, because that was truly an excellent showing by the home crowd, and we saw them absolutely feed off of that energy. Jordan Binnington has, I want to say, 13 straight wins on home ice now.
Hmm.
Um, it's either 12 or 13 for Binner.
I think
And
it's 13.
early in that game, I mean, Buchnevich scores like 40 something seconds into the game, and I mean, the top is already ready to come off. It was just looked absolutely electric on the local broadcast I was watching. But yeah, I think this team at home definitely feeds off of that energy, and I think we saw that last night. Now, if they're going to win the series, they're going to have to win a game on the road. But now that they've shown, like you said, it really does feel like they adapt and they learn so much from each game. Now that
Hmm.
they've shown that they're capable of this kind of performance, um, that it feels like that they're going to be able to at least have a better shot now playing in Winnipeg in a rowdy environment. They're going to
Hmm.
have much better chance. And also, game four is maybe not must win, but it kind of is must win. But
Yeah.
that's perhaps looking ahead too much. To bring it back to game three, I think just playing at home, I don't know. It felt as much of an advantage for any other NHL team in years previous. Excuse me. It feels like this year there's something special going on in Centerprise in St. Louis in Enterprise Center.
Yeah.
I'm losing my words, so I'll let you take over here. But
Yeah, no, I think I agree. It was just a special home atmosphere, and to have the home crowd show up after the Blues just came from Winnipeg, which is an unbelievable playoff atmosphere, and that's sort of they've got a reputation for being a real great barn to play in at home, right? And so to have the St. Louis Blues fans come out and show out like that and be rowdy and be supportive, I got to imagine that was just felt so good for the Blues and was a big factor in just the energy and the vibes of the night, but the energy that they came out of the gate playing with. So I think that was huge. I think we should sort of dive deeper into analyzing this performance in particular, what went right for this team. And I just want to say for all those watching live, if you have any thoughts on Game 3, any questions you want to throw in the chat, let us know. Like we'd love for this to be a little bit more conversational, and to hear what you have to say about the Blues, about this series, about Game 3. So let us know. Um, but I want to start with the blue line, specifically offense from the blue line. Now, Alec, I think we must admit that we were probably wrong about our analysis on this point in our series preview. I guess it was like a week ago, a week and a half ago or so. Um, we were sort of discussing where the offense would come from, right, in this series, and we sort of said that we didn't sort of say we said that the defensive strength of the Jets kind of meant that we thought that the Blues defenseman wouldn't really be a significant factor offensively. So that was sort of our thought going into this series was the offense is really going to have to come from your forward core. Um, but I think what we sort of skipped over is how important scoring from our defensemen was for this team's success in the regular season. Um, so of their 250 goals, do you have a guess? Like you could do percentage wise or number wise, how many goals were scored by Blues defensemen? I'm
Uh,
kind of putting you on the spot here, so if you just want to pause and I can tell
Percentage
you
wise, or
either percentage or quantity. So they scored the team scored 250 this season.
I'll go percentage.
Okay.
Give me like, I know it was higher than usual, 20%.
Pretty close. Yeah, 18 and a half or so. So of their 250 goals, 46 were scored by Blues defensemen. Now you look around the league, like total point production on so like total point production for other NHL teams. You look at like percentage wise, what percentage of those points come from defensemen. You look at some of the top offensive teams; they're kind of in a similar range. So the Blues, their defensemen account for roughly 25% of their points. For the Jets, that's 24%. Um, for the Lightning, it's around 26. For the Panthers, 23. Vegas 25%, Colorado a little bit higher. You got Kale McCarr and Devon Taves over there, 28.8%. So like percentage wise of total points, the Blues are sort of in line with some of those top offensive teams in terms of point production from their defensemen. But goal scoring is where they deviate a little bit. So 18.4% of their goals um, came from their defensemen in the regular season. For the Jets, it was like just under 14%. For the Lightning, I mean, they've got like Victor Hedman and they've got some great players over there. It's only 13% of their goals came from defensemen. Panthers 15%. Vegas, great defensive core over there, top to bottom, 12.8%. Colorado, this is sort of again, you have Kel McCarr over there, so 19.8% from Colorado. So in short, this is a lot of numbers, but basically, when it comes to goals scored by the Blues, a lot of them come from our defensemen, and so and come from our defensemen at a clip that's a lot higher than league average. I mean, you can say like 18 isn't that much higher than 15, but over an 82 game stretch, it adds up. So 46 goals scored by the Blues defensemen, and so I think it was sort of, I guess it was just sort of an oversight, maybe saying that the Blues defensemen wouldn't be a significant factor offensively. And I guess in our defense, like the Jets have a good defensive core, and so um, you can expect those numbers to go down. But I think we were sort of coming at it from the angle of, well, in response, we want the scoring to go up from our offense. But what I took away from this game 3 is that you're probably going to need to go back to that strategy of defensemen taking shots, trying to get some scoring from your defensemen. So I've been rambling a while, and I'm kind of losing the thread here. But what do you think about like what we saw from Blues defenseman last night? Because Cam Fowler had himself a huge night, scored the third goal, had assists on the first two, and then assists later in the game on Kairu's goal and then Pareko's goal. So he had a huge night. Colton Pareko scored that power play goal last night. I think you look at last night and sort of some of the chances that Broberg was able to create with his skating. He didn't have a great night, but he created some chances. Falk is sort of an offensive guy. What did you see from the Blues decor last night, offensively speaking? That, I mean, do you agree that they're going to need some more scoring from their blue line to find some success in this series?
Yeah, so one with I mean, I just want to shout out that Colton Pareko goal, just a vintage Colton Pareko goal. That is one of the most satisfying plays that you will watch in hockey,
Yes.
especially when it puts your team up 7-2 in a playoff game. But oh my gosh, just that, I think that was maybe the most cathartic moment of the series so far to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm gonna hang on to that one for a long time. But I think the most surprising thing about the defensive performance is the ways in which that they are scoring and creating chances. Cam Fowler getting involved on Buchnevic's first two goals, all in different ways. You know, on some he
Mm-hmm.
was um, sort of in more of a medium danger area and was able to just like give a drop pass that Buch was able to finish. On the second one, I believe it was a like wristing it in from the point. Actually, I think in the post game, Thomas said that they uh,
Yeah.
took that play from Tavares and the Leafs,
Mm-hmm.
watching it around the league, and former coach in St. Louis came up, drew that one up. So
Yeah.
um, had to give it to Toronto first, but you know, whatever. It got here and the goal was there. But you know, Fowler looking really to create more of those like quantity chances, which is what it's going to take against a guy like Hellebuck. And you get a couple bounces, you can be up 3-0 with like 5 minutes gone or 15 minutes gone in the first period. So I think that's exactly what we saw. Definitely like sort of we broke down them activating more to be involved on the offensive play. I mean, the clip has sort of been going semi-viral in at least the Blues sphere, but on the Cam Fowler goal, he passes it out from behind Bennington, like behind his own net, and then just skates up the ice the whole way. Play is kind of on the other side, on the far side boards, and so he kind of smartly like finds just the right space, like negative space, to where the Jets defense isn't. And then Thomas gains the line, and before the Jets are able to realize and react to what's happening, Cam Fowler's already got a full head of steam crossing the blue line, and just has to make one move, which is a credit to him, but is a pretty easy move to make that puts him one-on-one with Hellebuck, and he's able to bury it. So first of all, I think Jordan Kyrou should take some notes, but I think like what you're seeing there from Fowler isn't necessarily that he's beating the Jets with just this insane display of Cale Makarian skill. It's just hockey sense and
Yeah.
IQ and structure. It's just being smarter than the Jets' like perfectly tuned defense, reacting to the play as it happens. When Fowler dumps that off, I bet he's immediately thinking, how can I get involved on this next offensive series? Because he knows exactly what is supposed to happen. The pass is supposed to keep going up the boards. He knows the Jets want to trap and keep the puck pinned against the boards. So he knows there's going to be negative ice or open ice on the other side of the rink. And he just takes advantage of that and goes the distance and is able to drive the dagger in early almost. And I really think this is just a highlight of the Blues coaching and like smarts, their offensive or their offensive performance from the defense. Same thing on that Pareko goal. I mean, you know, excuse me, not many can take a shot like Pareko can, but that's on Fowler too, because Thomas wins the faceoff. Fowler specifically skates to the corner almost to draw Hellebuck away so that he can get
Mm-hmm.
a quick pass off, and hopefully the speed of Pareko's shot in the pass can beat Hellebuck getting over to the other side. Or it wasn't Hellebuck, sorry.
It's Comrie at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. But, that's, again, that isn't necessarily Pareko, like, ripping one bar down that in just an unblockable shot, which it kind of was, but that's just like the intelligence of Cam Fowler and Pareko in this system to know exactly how to manipulate space and exactly knowing what the defense is going to do. And I think you kind of saw that on a lot of goals. I mean, the Toropchenko goal to Neighbors, this isn't the defense getting involved on offensive plays, but I think in our breakdown or our preview, excuse me, we kind of expected the big boys to be like the ones who were going to offensively drive the series, Thomas, Kyrou, Booch, etc. Neighbors and Torpo, especially Toropchenko, and Fax are getting a secondary assist on that as well. We didn't really expect that fourth line to be doing much damage, but credit to them. I think you see the same kind of thing there, to where Neighbors is taking it far side, and Toropchenko is, with his size and speed, able to just get his stick out in front of where the defense can hit it. Neighbors does just enough on the pass, and Toropchenko does just enough on the deflection, and it goes in. And I believe that was the one that chased Hellebuck too. So, I mean, all of this is just, the system is working. This isn't like fluky goals like we saw from Scheifele in games 1 and 2, where it takes a weird bounce off of a player or off of a skater, or Jimmy Snuggerud barreling in from the neutral zone into his own net, into the puck. This is just the system working. This is what we always talked about was possible, and how if they were going to, how they were going to win this series was by trusting in the system, trusting in this offense, and not letting up on that offense. And yeah, credit to Booch and the defense, like you said, for offensively putting it all out there. And maybe we will continue to see Cam Fowler go on the most legendary Conn Smythe run of all time. But I mean, even if their scoring contributions are mostly done from the blue line, I still expect them to be involved in the plays offensively. And because I think the system is just working really, really well, exactly as it's designed. And this outcome was always and will continue to be in the cards for the Blues.
Yeah, for sure. Just to tie a bow on the Fowler Parayko pairing, I mean, 5.9 is insane. Like, Cam Fowler, unreal. And both of them, the top pair was so good last night. They had an 83.5 expected goal percentage, a 63.3 Corsi percentage, 3 goals for on ice, and 0 goals against on ice. Like, just fantastic night from both of those two. And I think Parayko needed it. Like, even if Cam Fowler was able to carry the pairing on that one, I think he just sort of needed to be on there for some success. And yeah, he had a fantastic goal towards the end as well. So really great performance from the top pair. But shifting to the top line as well, segue, nailed it. Pavel Buchnevich, as you said, fantastic night from him as well, a hat trick. The top line as a whole, though, was amazing. Beyond Buch and his hattie, Thomas with 4 assists. Snuggerud looks so mature and so intelligent.
Yes.
Looked like he had another great game. But just the top line as a whole combined for 9 points. They had a 71.9 expected goal percentage. I mean, what is the ceiling for this line if they are all clicking like they are right now?
Yes, I mean, if you look at playoff points leaders, you've got several Blues leading the way there.
Yeah.
As driving offense, not just for the team, but for all of hockey. Cam Fowler actually is first right now, tied for first with 7 points, tied with Izzy Wash, Kaprizov. Yeah, just like
we all expected.
Right. But Buchnevich has 6 points, which is tied for second or fourth. Robert Thomas at 5 points. So, that, like you said, that top line, and then good old Cam Fowler are absolutely leading the way. And like we said, this was kind of how it was going to have to go. The top line was going to have to beat their top line if they were going to have a chance. And I think so far they've done a pretty good job, all things considered, of shutting down that top line. I mean, Connor has gotten his for sure, and Iafallo had a rebound goal. Scheifele has put up points, and I think he's had some nice points on assists. We've talked ad nauseum about his goals, but either way, their top producer right now is Scheifele with 5 points. And then Connor with 4. So, and then
Mhm.
Iafallo, I think, only has 2. But either way, like that is already, if you just want to go player for player on the top line production wise, Blues are outpacing them there for sure. And I mean, okay, Pavel Buchnevich had an awesome night, buried his chances, looked great, has been looking great for a while, deserved, earned every part of his hat trick, and just played so smart and finally got the bounces. Robert Thomas is one of the best skaters in the NHL right now, is just on an absolutely unbelievable run. I think probably the best hockey in his career ever. Both defensively and offensively has been great, has been winning faceoffs at an incredible level. Thomas and Buchnevich are absolutely driving forces of the Blues right now. But I want to talk about 21 because is
Let's hear
this
it.
an okay time or do you have more on Buch and Thomas?
Um, just before we get into Snuggerud, I just wanted to point out I was really curious to see um, how Monty would deploy the top line. We talked a little bit about this pre-episode, but just as you mentioned there, the Jets top line of Connor, Scheifele, and Iafallo has really been what's been doing the damage in these first few games on the Blues. And so I was curious to see when you have sort of last line change and have that home ice advantage, who he would deploy. I was thinking, maybe second line, get some physicality out there to combat that and save your top line for an easier matchup to generate some offense. But it was the top line that took most of the minutes against those three, and so I was impressed defensively with them as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, tell
Yeah.
me about Snug.
I mean, just so unbelievably impressive, I think. And like you said, the biggest thing that stands out with Snuggerud to me is that maturity that you're seeing him play with. That he's like a guy who he looks like a seasoned vet out there. He looks like he's playing with enough skill, enough speed, but his body control is just unreal. He knows exactly where to put his stick so that the puck is just out of reach of the opposing player's wingspan, or he knows just when to pull it back at just the right moment when someone's going to try and make a play on the puck, or if someone's going to lift his stick, he can use his body to just beat, like, if a poke check beats a stick beats wait, I did that wrong. There's like this rock paper scissors match of throwing a hit, lifting your stick, or making a play on the puck. He always knows the right matchup and what's coming. And not only that, he's doing this like skating towards his own net when you could start to feel the pressure a little bit. Not for Jimmy Snuggerud. He does this like when he skates backwards occasionally. He doesn't often skate backwards with the puck, but as he's going with a defender, he knows exactly how to pinch them and put them in a disadvantageous situation that leads to a dump in and oftentimes a switch in possession. And then offensively, in the offensive zone, this guy is just like Picasso on ice watching him play. I mean, I promise I'm not just trying to talk up this young player who has does he have a point yet? I
Yeah,
don't think he has a point in the play. He does?
yeah, he scored
Oh my
game
gosh.
two.
You're totally right. Well, either way, not
Oh, and
exactly lighting up the
also just had an assist on Buch's first goal last night.
gotcha.
So yeah,
Um not exactly lighting it up in terms of like, points leader Cam Fowler over here. But
that's right. That's
like,
right.
let me tell you, it's coming for this kid because everything is working absolutely so right. He is so dangerous in that medium danger area because his creativity, it's like he's got the mind of Robert Thomas and the skill of Jordan Kyrou, all of that with a better shot than both of them. It's like unbelievable. This I don't know. I just I can't get over watching 21 play. Every time he's on the ice, it's like I can't look away because I think he's doing something exceptional. And it's a really quiet exceptional, I feel like, if you don't necessarily
Yeah.
pay attention to it. So maybe I've just been psyching myself out about a player who's got 2 points in the playoffs so far, but I think his process is just so phenomenal here. And as I was saying, in that medium danger area, his IQ combined with his physical ability, it's just art on the ice. He's
Hmm.
perfectly able to, like I said, use his body to like muscle the defender out of the way and either create a dangerous opportunity for on a pass to another teammate, or make a hard charge for the net to create a dangerous opportunity for himself, or use his body to skate down below and then either draw in another or two other defenders, creating more open ice for his teammates, or take his man one on one down low and then win that battle and create more chaos deep in the zone, offering chances for high danger looks. So Snuggerud absolutely to me is, I think, the future X factor of this series going forward. And I know again everything went right in game 3, and yet he still didn't uh, get a goal in. But I'm just saying, like, I feel like it's coming for this kid, and he looks like so unfazed playing against this big bullying defensive team. And that's just all the praise in the world. So I am so excited. And as you said, like, this top line, everything is working for them right now. I think a big part of that is Snuggerud gives this team a look that they didn't have before calling him up. So
Yeah.
absolutely excited. I think the highs of this first line can go with anybody right now.
Yeah. He looks ready. Like that's the big thing. He just looks ready for this level of play, and the future is definitely bright. He had a on ice expected goal percentage of 80.7% in all situations, that is, and so just really fantastic game. But he was only third on the team in on ice expected goal percentage with 80.7%. Do you have a guess as to the two players above him for on ice expected goals percentage in all situations?
Last night or throughout
Last night.
the
Last
series?
night.
Oh, I know who it was.
It's Texier and Bolduc. I mean, how about that? The young guys coming up big, playing solid hockey. So Zach Bolduc in second last night, 81.9 on ice expected goal percentage. And then this is where I want to take it next is Alexandre Texier led all skaters with he had a 84.59 expected goal percentage in all situations, leading all skaters, both teams. He had a 75 percentage Corsi percentage in all situations, leading all skaters. So not bad. The third line as a whole looked really good on both ends. But let's talk about Texier. I mean, what kind of impact did he have? Do you think he's earned himself a spot starting on the third line again next game?
Yeah, this is just so funny. For those of you who are on Twitter X, and if you somehow don't give Sam a follow, do it. He's awesome, posts awesome stuff. The biggest
At
Texier
STL
defender,
Analytics.
yeah, the biggest Texier defender that has ever existed.
And I thought
But
it
hey,
was you at
maybe,
first, and then we met Sam.
yeah, maybe he's onto something though. Yeah, I thought he had a great game. I thought he sort of similarly, like, his process was really good playing with his line mates. I think defensively, I think there could have been a little bit better effort, but offensively, I think what he did really well was get the puck in deep and then chase after it and create enough time to get those line changes. Which then, if he could get some help or pass the puck off, then that switches the calculus on the ice, which then creates high danger and high expected goals looked for himself. So just his tenacity, I guess, as a player, that on top of his skill with his stick, and his skating is like so smooth. Yeah, I mean, Texier is an interesting guy. It feels like Texier and Joseph are kind of a like, what kind of piece do you want in a given night? Do you
It's like
want
yin
the
and yang here.
offensive? Yeah, exactly. Do you want the offensive Texier or the defensive Joseph? And maybe I think they'd have to dress someone or not dress someone else, but maybe one night we see both suit up, and then, like, first period, first two periods, Texier plays, and then third period Matthew Joseph gets like 10 minutes or something. So,
Mhm.
but anyways, yeah, fun game from 9.
Yeah, I loved it. He had a couple really good passes as well. Like just he hasn't played in a long time. And so to see him come out and look confident and look ready, like it was just incredible for a young player in his situation, I feel like. So
And
yeah, I
still
was
in the
just
contract for next year, no?
yes, I think so.
I believe so.
He hasn't played since March 27th, so it's been almost a month. And he came out and looked ready for playoff hockey. So shout out Texier, shout out Sam for being right about Texier. Yeah, just awesome game from Tex. I want to take this discussion before we wrap up. Uh, I want to talk about like where the Blues. I want to talk about like shooting and scoring location because this has been another talking point of ours throughout this series, and I think it's been a really interesting thing to monitor. Um, in the first couple games, let's see. In game one, they weren't really threatening at the net. They were taking some mid-range shots, but not from great mid-range areas, and they were taking a lot of shots from further out in game one. And then in game two, it looked a little better. They were threatening in those mid-range areas a little bit more. Looked good in that regard. Um, Still not really getting to those high danger areas. Um, but then last night, you look at like a heat map of where the Blues were shooting from. It looked really good. So I think they last night finally did a really good job of getting to the net front. Monty used the term net hunger after game two. I think they showed a real net hunger last night. And they continued to score from mid range, like at a pretty high level, like two, three, 4 goals, depending on your definition of mid range. But like getting still that production, which is where I think they excel, is in the mid range area relative to other NHL teams. But you want to be able to have a diverse approach, right? And so they took some shots from the faceoff circles. They took a couple from further out, like Parayko's shot, and um, but they were still able to threaten right at the net front, get into those high danger areas, and so that was really impressive to me. And another thing I want to point out here is, have you noticed this trend? I mean, shooting from the left faceoff circle has been working. We saw Robert Thomas get the first goal of the series here. We saw a couple last night. It was Parayko and who was the other one from there? I'm not going to get it. It was Buchnevich probably. I mean, he had three. He was probably one of his.
3 out of
So
7 chance, right?
yeah, exactly. So um, where was I going with this? Yeah, so shooting from the left face-off circle has really been working. Um, they scored again from over there a couple times last night, and it's interesting. Like you look at a map of Connor Hellebuck's save percentage on NHL Edge. Um, the high danger spots obviously are his lowest save percentage areas, as they are with any goalie. 833 like in the blue, and 846 in the area right in front of the crease. So those are obviously the worst, again, as it would be with any goalie. But the next worst spot is that left faceoff circle, 903. So I think the Blues have a really solid approach here in identifying that as sort of maybe one of Hellebuck's weaker angles. And so this is something that I think is really interesting. And we don't really have to get into all of this because this is kind of like hockey nerd, goalie nerd type stuff. But like the difference between Andre Vasilevsky good and Connor Hellebuck good is Andre Vasilevsky is they're both elite goalies, but Vasilevsky is like acrobatic, athletic. He's able to make those diving saves, and like Bennington is a little bit that way too. Just making those really impressive saves, impressive goalie plays. But the difference between a Vasilevsky and a Hellebuck is Hellebuck doesn't look that way because he's smart enough that he doesn't have to make those saves. He can make them, and he does sometimes. It's not his wheelhouse, but where he excels is those angles and finding, you know, understanding the angles of okay, the shot's coming from here. Here's how I need to position myself. the shot left his stick at this angle. Here's where I want to put my blocker. Here's where I want to put my glove. Like that's where Hellebuck excels. He's more of a mental goalie, and he's just done his homework. He's really smart. And so what I really like what we're seeing from the Blues is they have done their homework on Hellebuck too, and sort of found the angle where he is weakest, and where they can sort of put the most by him. And I think they had that coming into game one. We saw them shoot a couple times from over there. Robert Thomas scored again his first goal from over there. Jimmy Snuggerud scored the lone goal in game two. That's sort of Snug's spot for sure. And like a lot of players are really good at shooting from that spot, but Hellebuck seems to be having trouble saving goals from that spot. And so I've really liked what we've seen, the progression of what we've seen from the Blues in terms of offense, where they're shooting from and where they're scoring from. Getting into those mid-range areas, the face-off circles, and then between the face-off circles, that's been great. But last night we saw them get to the net front as well. So really liked that, offensively speaking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I have much on that, unfortunately. I think you broke that all down really well there. They've identified the weakness in Hellebuck, and I mean, this man has got to hate playing in St. Louis, and especially in the playoffs, because they're starting to build a narrative here against Hellebuck in St. Louis. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It can be fun to be hated, especially against division rivals. But yeah, I think great breakdown there.
Yeah, absolutely. And sort of to pivot or to sort of flip it on its head, and this is where I want to sort of ask you what you saw, because team defense has been one of the things you've been sort of touting all year, right? You sort of had the idea from the get-go that this could be a legit defensive team. And last night we saw them for really the first time all series do a good job of limiting high danger chances from the Jets. So obviously it's tougher on the power play, and the Jets were able to get a few. They didn't score in high danger areas at all. They were able to get a few chances on the power play. But at 5-on-5, we're really quiet when it comes to getting into those high danger spots. And so you look at sort of breakdown by period. So at all strengths, they had one high danger chance in the first, 5 in the second, and 2 in the third. 0 high danger goals against. So like, what did you see defensively from the Blues last night that allowed them to shut down the Jets in their really their best area of the ice offensively?
Yeah, I mean, I think you broke it down exactly right there. Is that they went back to their game of, first of all, they just kind of dominated time on ice in general, like offensive time on ice, just so skewed in the Blues' favor. But absolutely, like this was exactly what needed to happen for a successful Blues game script, and it's exactly what we saw. I mean, the Jets only registered 19 shots on goal, and if you go by period, they had 7 in the first, 8 in the second, and 4 in the third. So first of all, shutting down that third period is versus how we have seen them in the first 2 games. I think we've talked ad nauseum about that now, but even like you said, when the Jets were putting up a more sort of normal amount of shot volume, 7 and 8 shots in the first 2 periods, like you said, limiting those high danger chances is absolutely something that this team was really good at down the stretch, and something that they really took advantage of in this game. And I think they did everything the right way. I think you saw a better defensive effort, honestly, from the defensemen here. I think Broberg, Parayko stepped up more, blocking more shots. I think the forward lines pretty much were still playing their game and doing it as we've come to expect it at this point. Walker, Faxa, and Torpo all had great defensive games, as we've sort of come to expect it at this point, blocking shots and such. But I think you saw more of a defensive effort from the defensemen here too. And then, of course, Cam Fowler putting up 5 points always helps. But yeah, I think defensively, just shutting down everything that the Jets wanted to do is exactly how they stop high danger chances. And then also I think
Hmm.
maintaining offensive ice time, honestly, is
Yeah.
a really big reason that they're able to just dominate like they did. That's exactly what we saw happen. So I think
Hmm.
the other thing too, not just on even strength, but not allowing the Jets absolutely lethal power play, which went 1 for 4 in the night. And, on the last goal was, or the only goal let in was the Pionk shot in the late in the third period,
Yeah.
where the Jets had kind of already been broken by that point. There was hardly even a celebration for the goal. And I think the biggest thing for me, I'm not going to complain about the officiating because that's never the right thing to do here. But I think we can say that there were some calls this game that didn't get called first two games for both teams. And to me, the biggest thing for this team mentally, the way that they were able to battle against that and only allow one power play goal to the best power play in the league while scoring three of their own is just such a huge credit to the special teams mentality here. And so, like you're saying, it's not necessarily that they were like 5-on-5 dominating the game, because there's just, to be honest, was not as much 5-on-5 play last game. It was a really chippy game. I mean, the Jets had 8 penalties. I can't find the penalties in minutes right in front of me, but a lot of penalties in minutes. Um, and it kind of an ugly game, especially into the third period. And the Blues like never let them get back into it. I think, with
Yeah.
the, like I said, with a lot of those penalties could have been sort of mentally resets that would have given the Jets a chance to get back into it. And instead they just put their head down and kept working. I just feel like this culture of just working and fighting for each other is just showing game in and game out. And it's just so impressive because I just can't recall the last time I've seen such a radical momentum and cultural shift in St. Louis like this. And it's
In one
awesome to watch.
season.
So yeah, in one season too. That's a great point. And by a bunch
Yeah.
of young players. Um, I just really like how this team is working together, playing together, and it doesn't matter if they're 4-on-5, 5-on-4, or 5-on-5, or I mean 5-on-3. But even a man
Had a couple
down,
chances. Yeah.
yeah, even a man down on the penalty kill against the best power play unit in the league, they never back down, and they showed the Jets kind of what they're made of here. And man, it was just fun, cathartic, fun. Yeah.
Fun indeed. Yeah, this has been one of the big keys for sure, is not letting the Jets special teams, which is one of their strengths, be a strength. And so limiting them when they're on the power play. They're I'm trying to pull it up now, but their power play percentage is pretty low.
I think
And
they've
then
only had 2 power play goals in all 3 games, if I remember correctly. Maybe it's 3, but
yeah, um, the Blues so far in the postseason have of all teams that are all 16 teams in it, the Blues are fourth in power play percentage, 40% on the power play, and Winnipeg is 11th with 20%. So like the sample size is absolutely limited. But the point is, the Blues are out of the gate in the first round, taking advantage of their power play opportunities and not letting the Jets do the same. So that's been huge. It was huge again last night. Um, Also, getting back to winning more faceoffs last night, that was key. Um, all around, just a fantastic game from the Blues. Like offensively, defensively, Benner looked great. Monty was cooking. It was just a really great game. Enterprise Center was rocking. Couldn't ask for much of a better result in this one. Um, Again, most fun I've had watching hockey, watching sports in a long time. Like that was the most fun game of sports I have watched in, gosh, maybe like it's been a long time. Maybe since watching 2022 Cardinals or something like that. Because that was just a fun team to watch. But it's been a while. So super fun game. Pivoting now, we don't have to spend a ton of time on this because we're kind of running long already, but pivoting now to game four, right? This game four is on Sunday, April 27th. at noon Central Time. Really weird start time, but hey, I guess that means we don't have to stay up late like we did last night. Um,
Yeah, 8:45 local start time was rough last night. I mean, it was fun, but ugh.
yeah, it's rough. So just some weird start times in St. Louis. It's kind of odd. Anyways, game four. Alec, you kind of called your shot last game in identifying where the Blues needed to adjust their game plan a little bit. Do they need to adjust anything? Anything you want to see differently on the lines? Like, how do you think they should approach game four against the Jets?
I mean, I would say continue to let the top line eat, continue to run out Booch, Thomas, Snuggerud because it's absolutely working. Um, I'll give myself a pat on the chest here. I did call for Snuggerud to that top line, and here we are. Again, I think his moment to shine is coming in potentially a clinching game. I'm getting way too ahead of myself, but really, the top line needs to be the driver of this offense, and apparently Cam Fowler also. But they need to continue to let the top line do its thing. I think honestly, I think Shen and Kairu kind of have to find it a little bit. Kairu had a nice goal, and he can get into a dangerous area. He can make a nice shot. I'd like to see Kairu have a game where he just goes off here too. Um, because I think there's a lot more to be unlocked with Kairu here. It feels like he's not necessarily skating at his best hockey right now. I think he's defensively been excellent, but I think he's almost been leaning too far into the defense here just to so that the team can stay afloat against the Jets. I think Kairu should perhaps trust on the play of his captain, and perhaps we see a Texier or maybe even a Joseph. I don't know. Um, Kyrie and Joseph. I kind of like that, but um, playing complementary to each other and allowing Kyrie to get more quantity shots because the quality of his chances has been elite. It has been incredible. Every time he puts one towards the net, good things usually happen. It's just that the volume for Kyrie hasn't been there yet. And then so pretty much like continuing to rely on the top six or the top nine. I think they in game one probably a little bit too much WTF. I think in games 2 and 3 threw WTF out there when it was appropriate and it worked super well, but didn't ride necessarily the fourth line like they had been in the regular season. And then continuing to have the defensemen activate more offensively in the plays like they have. Cam Fowler obviously rode the success of that last night. I think Justin Falk is a guy who looks like he could be potentially having a maybe not a 5 point night, but I could see a multi-point night for Justin Falk in one of these games. Or honestly, I thought offensively, I thought Tyler Tucker had a great game. He was throwing a lot of stuff towards the crease and just trying to create something like that. And I think Tucker could potentially look to keep that up if he can continue to sort of skate into that medium danger area. But I think you super well identified it. That is the bread and butter of this. The key to success here is that medium danger area. And then lastly, I think is continual of the special teams, not letting the Jets power play get unlocked here and go on a run, which they are absolutely capable of. That power, excuse me, this always gets my brain mixed up. That penalty kill unit has to stay strong, has to continue to disrupt passing lanes, which Jim Montgomery shows that he is one of the best coaches in the National Hockey League and knowing how to disrupt passing plays and mess with opposing team structure. That has to remain a strength. The power play I don't think has to fire at a 40% success rate to remain successful in this series, but the penalty kill absolutely has to keep doing what they've been doing because there have honestly been a lot of calls, more calls in this series than I was expecting. Some and a good number I think you could say are just undisciplined, like can't really have it penalties like that. But I think it's a lot harder to ask guys to just not get penalties when you're also trying to coach them to play physical and play hard. So I think the solution there is continue to let the penalty kill do its thing. I think Thomas and Booch have been instrumental to the success, and I think Torpo and Foxa have been really, really good in their respective roles. So um, it's to me, it's top line, it's second line, and then it's penalty kill. that need to take over in game 4 for this team to be looking to even up the series again.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I don't have a whole lot to add there. Yeah, Kairu for sure. I'd love to see Kairu and Shen get it going, um, because they probably should be bigger factors in the series for sure. Um, Cam Fowler's not going to have 5 points every single night. Um, I will say though, Justin Falk actually had 2 points on game one. He had a couple assists. So yeah, I think he could sort of activate offensively, be a big factor. But I think I agree. I definitely want to see more from the second line, especially when that was what was driving so much of the team's success all year. I'll say it again. Obviously, we don't have Dylan Holloway, and what a difference he would make if he were in the lineup. Um, but that line was
He'd have
finding
7 points by
success.
now.
Yeah, probably. That line was finding success before the rest of the team. Like that line is what led the success. That's where the success started to come from, is from the second line. And so I would definitely love to see Shen and Kairu get it going for sure. And I just want to see them protect Bennington a little bit better, not just those high danger chances and continue to limit those as they did in game three, but like don't let them get too close to Benner here. Like it's happened a few times. Shifley collided with him and not. I mean, sort of make a statement here. Like don't let them be threatening him like that. So that's sort of what I want to see.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, just echoing everything you said for sure. So
I do have one more that I just
yeah,
remembered. I want to see a Winter Classic style captain's brawl. I want to see Braden Shen
ooh,
lay out Adam Lowry. He has been throwing so many punches after the whistle
love
and like
that.
well after the whistle. If you pay attention
Yes,
to it, like I'm just shocked this guy hasn't gotten fined yet, or if he has, it just hasn't made it to my news feed. But I mean, he should be. He's thrown so many late hits and specifically like punches to the face and like shoulder blades of opposing players. Braden Shen, go teach this guy a lesson because, or like a I don't know, Tucker or someone else who wants it. But I need
yeah,
a captain's brawl would do wonders for me.
yeah. Do it. Mix it up, and then I want to see Tyler Tucker take on Colin Miller because that guy
Mm.
got under my skin last night. Mm, mm, some he had that flop on the Bolduc slash, and then I don't know if you saw what he was
That's a crazy
doing to
call.
to Sonny, but he was he was being he was chirping Sonny, and it was I don't have to get into it, but it was some
Sonny is such a champion. He takes
yeah,
beating after beating and is literally all smiles all the time. Like
yeah, what a guy.
we really don't give that guy enough credit.
Sonny in more ways than one for sure.
They are going to be singing Legends of Oscar Sundquist in the naming random players from your childhood with the boys in 30 years. So
Yeah, yeah, I can see it for sure. Yeah, really excited for Game Four, another home game. So come on, St. Louis, show out again like you did in Game Three. Uh, the Blues will have a real chance to even up the series, and I believe, man, I'm feeling optimistic about this team. So um, I think they proved last night they can hang with the President's Trophy winners. They've been proving it all series, but they finally got the result that they deserved in this one, and I'm looking for them to keep it going and head back to Winnipeg with a tie series for sure. So really, really excited. We will continue to cover the Blues playoff series. We got a couple more to talk about now. So we will. Our plan is to go live in the days following, or on the case of Sunday's game because it's so early. We'll probably Alec go live that evening? Question mark, because it's at noon. So details to come for sure on these, but that one we might go live later that day, but for the most part it'll be the day after. So be sure to tune in for all of our post game our game recaps and reactions, and continue to tune into Note News beyond that. We really appreciate all that have so far. So the best way to follow along with us throughout the playoffs and beyond is to subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's the best way to help us out. It goes a long way. We really appreciate it. Like this video, Follow, rate, review wherever you listen on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And then follow us on socials at Note News Pod on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Check out all of our content over there. We've really appreciated all the engagement we've been getting. Keep it rolling. Keep it coming our way. We love it. Thanks for tuning in this time. We'll see you next time on Note News. And let's go Blues.
Let's go Blues.